letting your whole body settle into this peaceful and upright position. With every exhalation, feeling your whole body release. Your breath gets soft. The crown of your head releases upward. More than ever today, taking the time to let your awareness sink deep. Today is the deepest practice in that sense. Make this decision to be as settled as you possibly can today. Committing yourself to this quality of softness and quiet, deep presence. If you notice distractions coming up, commit to being disinterested in them. Don't push them away, but definitely decide that you're more interested in practice today. So as soon as you notice the distraction, just notice how silly it is, what a waste of time it is, and let it dissolve in front of you, and you return to where you are. In just a couple more minutes. discover just how soft you can become. Whenever you feel ready, getting your hands nice and warm. Hands were still a little cold from rushing around outside. I want to wait until I get them nice and warm. And when your hands are warm, softening open that point on the top of the head. Your shoulder is falling down the back. Your elbow falls away from the shoulder, so this is all lengthened. On both sides, again, you fall around the circle so that your elbow moves away from your shoulder, keeping the shoulder blade sliding down your back. Your neck is soft. The throat is released so that your head continues to float upward, disinhibiting the area of the back of the head and the back of the neck. And as usual, welcome to people who are here for the first time. You've managed to join a class that is on the last day of a 100-day series. So welcome. If you'd like to learn this particular set, please do check down below for an introductory video. And head over to Patreon to find this whole series, or simply wait a week or two until I upload the whole series to YouTube and make it public. For everybody else, softening around the eyes. taking the time to deeply soften and settle. Today, more than ever, allowing yourself to let go and to see just how soft and quiet you can become inside. When your mind wanders away, let it come back. When your breath becomes restricted, let go. When your body starts to grip, release. Settle. Thank you very much. We have Melanie cheerleading in the background.
Day 100. Day 100.
Oh my gosh. An actual cheerleader. I was just in the marching band. Softening open, easing open the shoulder. Mags, welcome. feeling into your body. After such a lengthy period of practice, for some of you, challenge yourself to settle more deeply into the body. We're constantly practicing this letting go of distraction, coming back to the body. Letting go of distraction, coming back to the body. But also we're practicing letting our awareness sink into the body, feeling more than just the surface of the skin, but the space beneath. Do your best to soften inside and into the present moment. This set also increasing the consistent quality of your touch, continuously softening your hands, softening your wrists, so that this gentle, deeply relaxed quality can transfer from your hands to the rest of your body. After so many days of practice, are you able to feel a greater difference? Easy and open. Releasing your shoulder open. Again, just as a reminder, your elbow is falling away from your shoulder softens, and it continues around the circle, continually lengthening and softening. You could do it the exact opposite. Tighten your shoulder, pull your elbow in, and try to reach, and then all you do is make things worse. So take the time to lengthen around the circle, to let your shoulder blade drop, to lift your elbow, which takes practice, but is a very worthwhile effort.
Yeah, that outward movement was so helpful.
Yeah, that release. Yeah. It disinhibits all of this stuff. Otherwise, we end up getting in our own way. So much of practice is just learning how to get out of our own way. It's the Daoist theme. Stop complicating your life. And of course, another thing that we've been practicing is this quality of touch, loving touch, kindly touch, friendly touch, connecting with your body, with your awareness, but also softening open your heart. That skill of warm hands and warm-heartedness connecting with your own body. That can be tremendously healing if you've lacked that. Continuously returning softening your mind, softening your heart, softening your hands. Yay, 100 days.
100. What's the Spanish word for 100?
All I can think is the Chinese word.
I used to know this.
Ciento.
Ciento.
Yeah. Un ciento. And again, as we settle more deeply than you have been. You have been training and getting better at sinking inside, quieting your mind to become stable, feeling inside your body, and letting everything fall still. Give yourself the chance to do it. Taking just a few more minutes. Challenging yourself to allow a deeper sinking and settling than you ever have before. And if this sinking and settling into your dantian is going especially well, you're feeling like it's especially nourishing, then just stay there, stay with it. You can come back to our practice later. That one is more important. And when you're ready, warming the sternum. And all of these various skills that I've been calling out as we go, they're all absolutely essential to practice. And this set is the best set that I know of to cultivate those skills. So you want to not cast any of them aside. You want to take the time to cultivate them and to turn them into strengths rather than weaknesses. And one of those skills, of course, is seated posture. We spend so much of our life sitting and destroying our bodies when all we have to do is learn how to sit correctly, to nourish our bodies. It actually becomes a strength rather than an illness. And so remember that the weight rests here in front. You're sitting on the backs of your legs. You're not sitting on your tailbone. You're not really sitting on your glutes in a way. In fact, you can move and pull your bottom out a little bit to expose and soften your tailbone, which shouldn't be pressing on anything. The weight is resting here, not back here. And if you can do that, then your spine remains free and soft and easy. And as you soften your solar plexus, you can feel that softness reach all the way to your back.
I have a question about that, if you don't mind. When you say that the weight is here,
Yeah, it's like here.
that was really helpful to hear, because I noticed that when I sit, most of the weight is kind of moving in this direction. And I wonder if that's because my hips haven't opened yet. Because I adjusted my hips slightly, and now the weight feels like it's closer to the outside than the inside.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that would be dependent on the rotation of your legs and your
Yeah.
hips.
Yeah.
And I would be hesitate to try to make a rule around that, because it would depend on everyone's body shape, how
Sure.
everything's working. So I think as long as the weight is resting more or less in the center of the leg, in front of those sitting bones, that also would depend on the shape of your seat and all of those things.
Yeah.
Both your seat and your seat.
Just seemed like something worth mentioning, because
It
I have a
is.
feeling that, at least for my body, my hip tension was interfering with the ability for the weight to sink, where
Yeah.
you were describing.
That
And
makes
as soon
sense.
as I adjusted, it also released the solar plexus.
You adjusted it how?
It kind of went from like this to
Yeah.
that.
Mel is making a shape that she was before sort of holding in this direction, and it was causing the weight to fall inward. And then after adjusting her hips, now the weight is resting more comfortably, and it softened her belly more. And so that's a really important and interesting distinction. Yeah, everyone's body is so different. You have to find your way through in some way. Because I haven't had that experience, but I've had a different experience. But I also don't have feminine hips, and my body was shaped differently. And so I think probably for everybody it's different. Probably for people who are pregnant or who have larger bodies, everything has to be adjusted. But we do want to take the weight out of the spine as best we can, and to just let it fall through into the ground so that this softening of the back can happen. And when the back softens, it allows the front to soften, which is really important. And the breath can be free, the chi is free to sink, the mind becomes more clear, emotions are less hampered by internal stagnation. All those qualities. It's a really useful point. And so this all just to say that we encourage you to continually cultivate this upright, correct, seated posture. Eventually, it is one of the most effortless practices you can have. If you find yourself holding yourself up in seated posture, it means you haven't quite found it yet. And the correct position is found through letting go and sinking, not through holding yourself up. Elbows falling away from your shoulders. Don't pull them back behind you. Let them go outward, away from the shoulder and down. Notice how they're not really moving behind my body. They're going that way.
I have to move really slowly to find that.
It takes practice. Emphasizing this downward sinking. And again, our next 100-day series will be emphasizing the neck and the shoulders. So this will become more obvious and easier to work with. It's not really what we've been trying to cultivate with this particular set. So it's okay if it's difficult. I just thought it's worth mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
Just pausing for a moment to let your qi settle inside as best you can. And then warming the belly. Again, just a moment of settling, sinking inside, letting your qi move toward the middle dantian. And then we continue to the next. Hopefully with 100 days of practice, that capacity to sink inside toward the dantian has also improved a bit. It's perfectly okay if you are not able to feel inside your body yet. But in the very least, I'm hoping that you are allowed and able to coalesce your awareness in or behind your navel. Again, taking several minutes to settle as deeply as you're able to. Warming the middle dantian with your awareness. Several more deep, comfortable breaths. Everything coalesces in the center. Remember that this by itself is one of the primary practices in all of Taoism. And if we ever have enough interest and enough people who can feel their middle dantian, feeling into their body and can sit comfortably, then we can do a 100-day series on just this settled meditation practice as a way to support people to cultivating their middle dantian and moving to the next stage of practice. So don't skip past this as some small thing. We do it as a way to make sure that qi isn't rising upward, but it's also one of the most important cultivation skills that you can use in these internal methods. Disinhibiting this inguinal crease in front of your hip, if that's especially tight as well. And I'm not going to do as many of these movements on the back, just so we have extra time to practice these long seated methods, these long meditation periods. But if this is really nourishing for you and has been helpful, then please put the extra time in to open the back. It's a wonderful practice. softening around your knees. I've been listing off all of the benefits and the skills that you've been gathering through this course, this 100-day series. And of course, one of the very important ones that I didn't mention quite yet is this awareness of this membrane layer, this fascial layer, the space beneath the skin and the muscle. In general, it's important to start feeling into your body, to cultivate the ability to be aware of the insides and all of our internal practices. In order to begin interacting with that space, we have to be able to feel it and sense it in some way. And this is, in a way, the easiest to feel because it's right beneath the surface. Just the warmth of our hands can draw our awareness into that layer. And this is that layer with all of the fluid movement and the blood flow and all of the life happening. To our senses, it can feel like an empty space. But when that empty space fills up with our awareness, then it starts to turn into something else. And so as we practice, notice whether or not that skill and capacity has increased. And of course, it's very location dependent. Some places it's much easier to feel into the body than others. But I'm hoping that everybody has at least developed some ability to feel just inside their body. It's another essential step that I think this is the best practice to cultivate. Because with this set, there isn't really so much to teach. It's not like there's a lot of detail in this once you learn the basic points in the set. Then it's just you coming back, and cultivating softer hands, a more attentive, relaxed mind, consistently relaxing around your distractions, consistently softening your heart and just feeling a bit of gentle kindness for your own experience. Nothing super sophisticated, but altogether something very special. Getting better as well at hinging from the hips, keeping the spine long, the neck released, not slouching or collapsing. Your shoulders stay soft, your hands are released. And I can think of 2 more things that we cultivated in this class, trying to remind everybody what they've been working on. It's always good to summarize at the end of a series.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
One thing that I think is, in a way, one of the most important things is cultivating a daily practice, especially one as intensive as this. This is 90 minutes. This isn't a 5-minute practice, or as some of my friends on here know, I tend to often recommend a 5-second a day practice, just to establish some kind of routine, to get better at coming back every day, even if it's only for 5 seconds. And that is a wonderful way to practice. But this is something different. Every day, as best you can every day, coming back, putting in 90 minutes of care and presence is transformative. I think that that's a really fantastic skill to cultivate. So I'm hoping that Mel and I made it fun and interesting enough to help you keep coming back, so you didn't feel like you were practicing alone, which is always a little bit harder. Continuing to soften your hands. Notice if you are restricting your breath and let that go. Notice if this posture is a bit difficult for you, find a different one. But don't round out. Keep your back soft and straight, lengthening upward. The last skill that I hope was gained from this course, for at least some of you, wasn't really part of this particular practice, but I threw it in because I thought it would be important for overall Qigong growth. And that's the basic bits of Chinese medicine that I've tried to include. The channels, the points, the 5 exhaustions, all of these little skills that we've discussed over the period of time. I'm hoping that people cultivated some knowledge of their energetic anatomy and how Chinese medicine sees the world, because that's an integral part of Qigong practice. You can't separate Chinese medicine from Qigong. It's one of the 5 branches of Chinese medicine. And so by having some of that knowledge, it makes it easier to practice other methods and to grow within your practice. I think that's all of the things. Let me know if there's something else that I've missed. But that's a lot. For those of you that have been consistent, you've learned a lot. And I applaud you.
One of my big goals was just to feel comfortable sitting.
Yeah, you've done so well.
And I feel like this practice has helped more than any other, especially for the low back.
Mm-hmm. Especially with that special stool.
Yes. Thank you, Chris. It really did make a huge difference.
Yeah, the ability to sit and be through and soft is huge. Sitting has gotten to be famous within our culture now as, worse than smoking. And some of it is because of how we sit, not just how much we sit.
Yeah, I also noticed how that ability to sit comfortably makes it easier to do everything else. Mm-hmm. If I'm working, or if this morning I was playing the Qigong with ZhiCheng, and there was a time not long ago I would not have felt comfortable or as present doing those things because of my poor posture. Because so much of my body's resources were spent fighting tension,
yes,
that kind of thing.
tension fighting tension.
Yeah.
I think that you are not the only one. Chris wrote something.
Oh, yes. He said, I'd add you've developed a sense of community too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's one of the great parts of this. We were wondering whether or not we would continue in these larger open classes. And the number of people that have gotten together has been really wonderful. I think it's something that tends to be super important for Qigong groups. So I think you're right, Chris. Finding community is another essential part of practice. Do you want this little bench?
Nope, all yours.
Okay. As a side benefit for the set, not really what it's for, but hopefully people have become a little bit more soft and flexible in their hips. Not from stretching, but from learning how to lengthen and let go. Too many people treat this as a kind of a stretch, when really it's just a softening long in both directions. And slowly, as the body softens more, you're able to move more deeply and be more flexible. It's a very different kind of flexibility. We could easily create another 100-day class just based on Daoist flexibility methods. But for the most part, most people don't need a lot of flexibility. They just need to be soft. Loosening all the way up to their hips. Same thing again. Remember that we are lengthening our channels, lengthening our spine, softening our hands and feet, softening the neck, softening the hips. If you feel a pulling back or a stretching or a gripping with your musculature, adjust. Don't go so far or just get even softer. The point is not to touch your toes. The point is to soften long through your body. Easing your waist. Remember, this isn't I can freeze my waist and just twist my hips and shoulders, and you can sort of fool yourself this way. But you can instead soften your shoulders and your chest, relate your chest to your navel, turn your actual waist, softening your lower back, softening the space below your ribs, the belt vessel that we talked about. Tends to be frozen on most people, so hopefully this set has softened it somewhat for you.
I noticed that lengthening really helps.
It does, yeah. Mel's mentioning that if you lengthen your spine, lengthen your hips so that your knees move away from your hips, this space opens up because you've softened everything, that it decompresses that area and allows it to move more easily. If you compress down onto things, they just compact and they won't move. Very good point. Again, as we move through the tongue and teeth series here, I'll click the tongue maybe a dozen times and then click my teeth maybe 60 times, as many as you like. If your teeth are sensitive, you can simply touch them together and then press your teeth. And if you tap your teeth together, see if you can tap all of the teeth in as many angles as you can, but not too hard, especially if you have dental problems or fragile dental work. And then as you rub your tongue around the outside and then the inside of your teeth, you can do it 9 times, 18 times in both directions, but don't allow all of this to get sore. Just woken up. And then once you gather the saliva and swallow it down, let's take several minutes feeling this sinking through the body and this, again, settling into the middle dantian space. And see if you can get as deep as you're able to, letting your chi coalesce and waking that up. Once you have settled as deeply as you'd like, feel free to lay down on your back and allow yourself to get nice and soft. As usual, supporting your body however you need to in order to deeply let go. And allow your awareness to spread out evenly through your body, paying special attention to that fascial layer that we've been cultivating. And feeling everywhere from your fingers to your toes. Staying as comfortable as you'd like for as long as you'd like. And at some point, you'll end up back in a seated position. Once again, maintaining that sense of a connection to your center. From that center, your awareness spreads out to fill your body and then out into the space around you. Vibrantly aware of the space around you, but not aware as though you're in the center of your thoughts thinking about the world, which is where many people live. Instead, it's as though you're aware from the space around you, from the center of your body, helping you stay rooted and grounded. Thanks, everybody. Congratulations. 100 days in a row. Congratulations.
100 days.
Yeah. And if there are any questions, feel free to ask. I did want to offer one bonus teaching since you made it through the 100 days. Not technically part of this set, but maybe useful for some people. I thought I could teach you napping Qigong posture, as taught by Master ZhiCheng. Super helpful. I first learned it back in Chinese medicine school, and it helped me so much. So the posture is very simple. Maybe I'll talk about it first while I'm sitting. If you were to pledge your love to something, you might place your right hand below your heart. Steph, I'm so glad that you made it, especially during this deep and important time. The chance to be relaxed and kind to yourself and to have that sense of deep peace soaking in. I'm sure it's been nourishing for the both of you, for the three of you. Really, really glad that you made it so often. So if you were to place your right hand just under your heart, as though you were pledging your love to somebody. And then this is while you're lying down. Your left hand and your left ankle cross over. So your left hand sits just below your navel, and your left ankle sits on top of your right ankle. So this is this closed posture that helps chi to sink down inside. And it's not for sleeping overnight. You wouldn't do this before getting ready for bed in the evening. This is specifically for napping, which is a kind of Qigong practice. And so again, if you were to lay flat, your right hand would go under your heart, and then your left hand and left ankle would come to the center line. And you'd perhaps place some pillows beneath you if you need to have some support. Again, create a comfortable nest for yourself. And you would simply allow your awareness to sink down into your belly, to sink down into your bones, because that's what sleeping looks like. It's the yang, bright awareness, settles deep into your body and sinks inside as though being embraced and enfolded by the yin of your body. So usually what I do if I'm going to take a nap is I wrap myself up if it's cold, and then I would assume this position. And then usually what I do is I do like a progressive relaxation practice. I've made use over the years of a kind of self-hypnosis method to train my body. Okay, now is the time to sleep. And so I used to practice based on just counting down from 10. I learned this from a guy who, he was in his 80s. We were actually going to write a book together. And he was fantastic. He proved to me that he could fall asleep whenever he wanted. He had taught himself how to do this. And he would count down from 10. And by the time he got to 1 or before, he was gone. He was out. It was amazing. And I thought that is a fantastically useful skill. And since then, I've heard of other people using it, even in the military. And so you would combine this. Every time you exhale, you would count down 1, 10, exhale, 9, exhale, 8. And what I tend to do is do a progressive relaxation down my body. And so I would exhale, relax my head and face. Inhale, let that stillness deepen, just like we practiced in the beginning of this class. 9, I would exhale and soften my shoulders down to my fingertips. So a wave of softness traveling down. Inhale, let that stillness deepen. 8, I would soften my chest and my heart. Inhale, deepen. 7, I would exhale, soften my upper back. Inhaling. 6, I would soften my belly, my organs, and I'd let some awareness sink into my dantian. Inhale. 5, I would soften my lower back. 4, I would soften my glutes and my hips. 3, my upper legs. 2, my lower legs. 1, my feet. And these days, as often as not, I'm asleep by the time I get to my feet. And so it is a really useful practice. And the trick for the self-hypnotic side is to wait to do that until you think that you can actually fall asleep. So lay there as long as you need to get quiet and soft, and then spend maybe 6 months or a year. Just as you're about to fall asleep, start to do that practice so that your body-mind relates that countdown to falling asleep. Because if you try to do it while you're wired and awake, then you'll start to relate that countdown to feeling wired and awake, and that's not helpful. But if you can create a kind of link between drifting off to sleep and that countdown, it starts to trigger that process in your body mind, and it makes it much easier to sleep. And that's another reason to assume this posture, because your body mind says, oh, okay, we're napping now. And everything goes, even just doing it just now and counting down I could feel this sinking down inside. And so that is a really wonderful practice. It can take a lot of time and regular doing to let your body mind associate that and start to do it automatically. But once you have it, it is a fantastically useful practice, because then you can just nap when you need to, which is really healing. I highly recommend everybody nap every day. Thanks, Mags. I'm so glad that you made it. It's wonderful having you here. Ah, I the new. Our wonderful Scottish contingent. So no other questions?
I have a question on the sleeping practice. So I remembered this hand being a little lower.
Mm-hmm. It is just, well, for men, it's just below the breast tissue here. But you can place it on the breast or below. It's okay, as long as it's in this area. You can place like this part of your thumb, the thenar eminence, the pad of your thumb, in the center of your chest, if you'd like. Just somewhere in here.
Okay, for some reason I thought that placing it that high would bring chi up. I feel like I remember hearing someone say you want the hands generally to be like below the waist.
No. Well, if we're doing this. But part of the reason for this is that there's this movement of energy that goes this way.
Gotcha.
And so you're sort of gathering from here and sinking it down this way. That's the theory behind it.
Oh.
And so it triggers this. This is sinking. The left hand is the yang hand in this case. And so it sinks down.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the reason for it. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your practice. I hope that you go out and share this with at least one person. If you can do that and spread the method, it's so simple and so safe and wonderfully healing, and just keep it growing around the world so it doesn't vanish. You are all very much loved. And remember to let me know when you all... Susan Lee is here.
Susan Lee!
Remember to let me know when you all hit the 100-day mark. Not all 100 classes, but when you do 100 days in a row, even if it's just of the first class. And then I can send you a gift.